Welcome to this video on collecting our children. Now you may ask, what is collecting our children? Essentially, it is reminding our children that we are there for them, that they can depend on us. It's creating connections with them. Now I believe some of these aspects that I'm going to share about collecting our children can apply to the adults in our lives as well as the children in our lives. Collecting our children can be both something we do innately or instinctively, and that we also need to remind ourselves to do consciously. In this brief video, I will share the important reasons to collect your children, the 4 types of collecting, and some examples of how you can do that with your kids. Why would we want to collect our children and others in our lives? When our children are young, many of us will collect them naturally. Our children will naturally depend on us and will naturally connect, protect, and guide them. Collecting our children are things we do, actions we can take. However, all of it is in the service of creating the best, most secure relationship with our children. I spoke about why this is so important in my video and blog article called The Most Important Thing We Can Give Our Children. Essentially, the most important thing we can give our children is a home base, a shelter from the storms of life, a place to come back to when life is too much and they struggle or they fail. It allows them to explore and experiment in life while always knowing that they have a safe place to come back to rest, regulate, and restore themselves. You can think of collecting our children as a little courtship dance that brings them back to us again and again. Now, collecting our children isn't my idea. It comes from the work of Dr. Gordon Neufeld and is based on attachment theory. When our kids are securely attached to us, they will evolve and mature in the best possible way so they can grow up to be secure adults that are prepared for a more happy and successful life. Dr. Neufeld, who has been working with children and youth for over 40 years as a clinical counselor, shares in his book, Hold On to Your Kids, that we can't teach or train our children to become their own individual person. But what we can do is nurture their process, provide the right conditions, and remove many of the impediments of their journey. See, maturation isn't a linear or a mental process that can be followed from start to finish. We all need to find our own way to it. Dr. Neufeld states that by collecting our children, we are engaging the attachment instincts. And the foundation of a child's true self-esteem is the sense of being accepted, loved, and enjoyed by the parents exactly as they are. So how do we collect our children? As I said, there are 4 ways that we can collect our children. Many times they will blend together. Many of us will do them naturally. I encourage you to start each new experience you have with your children. So, after every time you've been separated from them for whatever reason, like if they're at school or even sleep time, that you connect and collect them. So when you wake up in the morning, when you see them after school or work, or when they get home from a friend's house, you may have things that you want to discuss with them or that you'd like to have them do. But to take even a minute or two to connect with them will probably make it all go more smoothly and will be far more rewarding for both of you. The idea of collecting our children is not to try to get something from them. We are letting them know that the relationship between us is important. So the first way that we collect our children is to get into the child's space. Dr. Neufeld sums this process up as collecting the eyes, collecting a smile, and collecting a nod. So the first part, collecting the eyes. And what does this actually look like? Of course, each child is different, but we need to get into our children's face. When they are young, that might mean we need to get down to their level by bending down or even sitting on the floor with them. A young child's natural inclination will be to engage with us. As the still face experiment so viscerally demonstrates, our children need connection with us at a deep survival level. I'll link that video down below. I know with my son, there were a few times when he was engaged with me and I turned my face away to look at something and he forcibly grabbed my face to turn it back to connect with him. Right? As human beings, we need connection to be seen and experienced. And children know this. And if their relationship is safe, they will demand it. And as they grow and get older, this demanding will become less and less physical and less obvious, but it's still there. And of course, this is going to shift as they get older. And we may need to be more persistent in collecting them. They may start to resist our efforts to connect with them. It's important that we don't take that as a sign that they don't need it. How they need it might change, but the fact that they do need it won't. So we need to find friendly ways to get in their face. You might need to wait until after they finish their thought, what they're currently engaged with. You might need to repeat yourself a few times until they engage with you. But the goal is eye contact. And how do you know if someone is connected with you? How do you know that they're listening to you, engaged with you? You know as they are making eye contact with you. It might not be consistent eye contact, but they come back to it. Now, there are many reasons that making or keeping eye contact is hard for people. Honestly, for a long, long time in my life, I wasn't a great listener. I was half listening and I wasn't engaged. I wasn't giving people my full attention. And I apologize to those people. It really wasn't about you, it was about me. But I digress. The important piece of this is that when we are engaged with someone with eye contact, we can tell if we have their attention or not. So collecting the eyes is the first piece. The next piece is collecting a smile. What is a smile? A smile for much of the world is a universal sign of warmth, of connecting, a show that we wish to offer some warmth, maybe some safety and connection. And as you've probably found sometimes, getting a smile from another person is as easy as making eye contact and smiling yourself. Other times it takes a few words, maybe an offer of encouragement, a compliment, or some humor. We are connecting through some shared experience, through sameness. We acknowledge how we share in the same experiences. That remind them that we see them, that they are known and safe in their relationship with us. When we are in agreement with someone, we are more open to them. We have a bridge or common ground between us. It closes the divide and it creates connection. It doesn't mean that we have to agree to everything that the other person wants. I find often when I say no to something my son wants, if I also acknowledge that it wasn't what he wanted, it helps. I might say something like, I know Dad's been saying no a lot to time at the park this week. Or I might say something that might exaggerate me saying no by saying something like, Dad hates the park. He never wants to come here again. But because I have a trusting relationship with him, we laugh about it together, right? And that's another form of collecting the nod. I have to say, this greeting your children after you haven't seen them for a period of time is the best time to collect them in this way. What I've learned is one of the best and easiest ways to collect my son is every time I pick him up after school, I make a point of connecting with him. I make sure I'm not on my phone for the first 10 minutes he's with me. I make sure I greet him with a genuine smile. I look him in the eyes. I tell him something like, I've missed you, or I've thought of you. I might ask him a question about his day. I rarely get anything from that anymore, but I'll also ask how was his day with his friends, which I do get a lot more from. Now, the second way that we can collect our children is providing them something to hold on to. And we must offer our children something to attach to. With very young children, that can be as simple as a finger. As they get older, it might be not as physical, but something more to hold on to figuratively, something to hold dear. While it's not something that they can necessarily hold on to, two of the best ways to do this is with our attention and interest. This fosters this something to hold on to, and it creates genuine warmth. affection, enjoyment, and delight, right? Celebrating the other. We let our children know that they matter to us. And physical contact is a good way. Hugs, having them sit on your knee or close to you on the couch. We want our children to know that we want them in our life, in our space, and in our hearts. We can let our kids know and other important people know that they matter to us by letting them know that we're thinking of them when we don't see them, or that we're looking forward to seeing them again in the future. We can let them know when that might be. What we're looking for are spontaneous acts of inviting connection. They're extensions of love. And Dr. Gordon Neufeld says it so well in this. In collecting a child, the element of initiative and surprise is vital. Something to hold on to is most effective when least expected. If what we have to offer can be earned or is seen to be some sort of reward, it will not serve as nurturing contact. Our offerings of connection must flow from the fundamental invitation we are extending to the child. This step in the dance is not a response to the child. It is the act of conceiving a relationship many times over. It is an invitation to dance the mother of all dances, the dance of attachment. Again, it's a matter of conveying spontaneous delight in the child's very being, not when he is asking for anything, but when he is not. We show our pleasure in his existence by gestures, smiles, tone of voice, a hug, a playful smile, by the suggestion of a joint activity, or simply by the twinkling of our eyes. It can be as simple as bringing more curiosity and enthusiasm to something your child is sharing with you. Bringing joy or more volume into your voice when they aren't expecting it, right? Being playful. Sometimes it's just about being silly about some idea or video game character they're talking about. When they share about what interests them, they're inviting us into their world as they want us to be there with them. So go into that world with joy, explore and celebrate it with them. So the third way to collect our children is to invite dependence. When our kids are babies, they obviously depend on us for everything. As they get a little older, they're holding their heads up and their bodies upright. It starts to change. As they're sitting or standing in front of us, we can reach out our arms to them. They reach out back to us, and then we pick them up. When they drop something out of their reach, we can allow them to let us know that they want us to retrieve it and then get it for them. As they get older, that dependence obviously will evolve. One step to keep in mind is our world's focus on independence. Our Western world, especially, promotes independence and individualism, and our children will mature into those things when they depend on us. They need that emotional home base to come back to. When they have that, only then can they find true independence. They can venture out and try things for themselves, knowing they have a place to come back to and be supported if they don't succeed. When they know they can depend on us, they will naturally want to find their own independence, which brings mature evolution for them. So some examples of inviting dependence, are getting dressed or putting on their shoes. At some point, they will say they want to put on their own clothes. You will hear, I can do it myself. Then they can try, and maybe they succeed and maybe they fail. Maybe if you see that they're not able to do something, you can ask them, would it be okay if I help you with that? It looks hard. And they may choose to struggle. And assuming you have the time, I encourage you to allow them to fail, as long as it's their choice. It will allow them to get practice and become more comfortable with trying things and not succeeding, and then either asking for help or stopping. It's part of the process of maturation of people to be confronted with futility. Essentially, we want to allow time and space for them to try things for themselves. but for them to know that they can always come back to us when they need to. We don't want to shame or guilt them into thinking they need to do everything for themselves once they've done it a few times. We keep the door open for our support so they can come through it at any time. So the fourth way that we can collect our children is to act as the child's compass point. We act as their North Star, the lighthouse in the fog. And we do this by giving them direction. When they are young, we physically give them direction on how to nurse and how to start to explore their bodies and the larger world. When they become mobile, we keep them from harming themselves. We direct them away from all the potential dangers of the world. And as they get older still, we direct them by letting the child know where things are in their physical environments. We familiarize them with their world, with people, places, and things. When we introduce them to new people, we are letting our children know that, hey, I know this person, and they are safe for me, so you can feel some safety with them also. It allows their nervous systems to settle into an experience or place. And as we introduce our children to people and places, it's like we are extending the safety they have with us and that secure bond out into the world. I know with my son, when we're going somewhere that we've never been or rarely visited, I will usually describe to him what's going to happen as far as I understand it, where we are going, what he might expect, who we might see there. I will also remind him of previous experiences at those places or with those people. As people, our minds want to understand what comes next. It reduces the number of potential dangers that we have to be on the lookout for. When our children are attached to us in a healthy way, they are allowing us to hold on to some of the uncertainty for them navigating their lives. As adults, we orient ourselves too. When we go to a new location, we may want to walk around or check out the hotel. We get a tour of the new office, or a tour of the office where we're interviewing. It increases what we know of the world, which gives us the feeling of being more safe in it. When I'm thinking about visiting a new place or trying to relate to a new person, it helps me to hear from people I trust, share about their own experiences in those places or with those people. We might share with our friends things like, oh, I loved my trip to Tulum, Mexico. The beaches and the sun were amazing and I felt really safe there. Or, you remember Sally. You met her at Tim's party a few months ago. We are orienting other adults through extension of our connections. Now, if you've ever observed children at the playground with their parents, you'll notice the really young ones often won't go more than a few paces away from their parents. But as they get older, they'll venture further and further away, always checking back to see that they can see mom or dad, and that mom or dad sees them. They are learning their own independence, but they can only do that because they know that they always have you to come back to. You are their compass point in the vast unknown world. It's a little bit of an overview of what I've talked about here. I want to remind you that this is a long game, right? The relationship might not show improvements in the short term. And we can't expect our children, at least until they become adults, to meet us in the same ways that we meet them. Ideally, they rely on us and know that they can depend on us. In summary, the 4 ways to collect our children are getting in their face, right? We make eye contact, we connect with them, we let them know that we see them. The second one, we provide something to hold on to, right? Whether it be physical hugs or holding hands, closeness. We let them know that we've been thinking of them, right? We bridge the time gaps when they are away from us. The third one is inviting dependence. Give them the space to do things for themselves, but never close the door and invite them to depend on us. Remind them that we are always there to support them. And the fourth one is to act as a child's compass point. Be their lighthouse, orient them to new experiences, be certainty in the vast unknown of the world. Remember, we want to send the message to our kids that our relationships with them are more important than anything else, more important than their behaviors, how well they do things, their scores on the test, and the messes that they've made. Of course, that doesn't mean we don't correct those things. We don't encourage them and hold them to some standard. But that loving, secure relationship needs to come first. And really listen to your children. Ask questions. Be curious about something that interests them, even if it doesn't interest you. Find your delight in their delight. We are sharing love. Research states that if we can do this, only 30% of the time that our children are looking for it, our children are going to be prepared to live a happy and fulfilled life. Now, like my last video, I wish to offer you a brief experience. Experience could bring up feelings or sensations in your body. If things get to be too much, please stop the experience at any time. Spend a minute or so reorienting yourself to your physical surroundings by focusing on objects around you for at least 10 seconds or more. You can always retry this experience with a trusted person in your life that can be with you through the experience without bringing their own reactions into it. If that isn't right for you, then maybe find a trusted coach or therapist to support you in it. So now I invite you to close your eyes and let my voice guide you into this brief experience. I invite you to imagine a situation where you weren't as present for your child, a friend, or another loved one as you could have been. I suggest you find something that isn't really upsetting, but is something you know you could have handled differently. Now imagine what happened next. Hear what was said, or allow what you could have said to come to mind. And I want you to bring your attention to your body. Notice if there are any sensations. You could experience those sensations as a tightness or relaxedness. It could be a warm or cold sensation, or it could feel like electricity or energy in your body. I encourage you to stay with these sensations, not needing to change them or get rid of them. You might notice that you want to get rid of them. You want to do something with them, anything. Just allow that to be there too. Now bring your awareness to your breath. Notice how the air comes into your body and then that goes out. During this process, you might also experience emotions. They might be anger or frustration. It could be feelings of confusion or being unsure. There could also be feelings of joy or happiness. Again, I'm going to encourage you just to allow those to be here. I'll invite you now to take a deeper inhale of breath and just let it out, almost like it's falling out of you. Like you're letting go of a big sigh. It can be out loud or it can be just to yourself. Maybe we'll do a couple of those. Maybe one more. Now I want you to see that same child, friend, or loved one in some future experience. See the two of you together there. Now see yourself connecting with that person, with eye contact, with smiles, or maybe a laugh or two. See them really seeing you. Hear the joy and the laughter and the connection between you. See and recognize that they are seen by you. Look into their face and their eyes. See it telling you they feel seen, accepted, appreciated. Now notice how you feel in your body. See what sensations come as you revel in this experience of connection. Hear any sounds that come into your awareness. Notice if there's any shapes or colors, some visual experience. See if you can allow all of these just to flow to you, be with you. See if you can embrace them within you, if that feels okay. Now, I encourage you to take a few deep, gentle breaths as you breathe in these sensations, feelings, and whatever experience you've had. Make it part of you going forward. Know that you can come back to this experience whenever you choose. Slowly open your eyes and come back into the awareness of where you are. Thanks very much for joining me and learning about collecting our children. Until next time.